What's up, guys? So I'm driving to work, and I've tried to do this intro at least 5 times now, and I just keep not being able to do it. So hopefully this is the last one. But what you guys are about to watch, or about to listen to, is kind of what I would call, I guess, raw footage after meeting somebody who was a really cool older person, somebody who I really kind of clicked with. I really enjoyed talking to. And yeah, I tend to meet these people from time to time. These type of people are very, I'm not really sure how to describe it. It's just like when you meet one of these type of people, you know that they're they're kind of a different breed of person. So I tend to meet people like this from time to time, and it's weird. I try and retell the story, or try to explain how it made me feel talking to them after the fact, 2 or 3 days after the fact, and I just can't do it. So I actually kind of did it right after it happened. I was a little choked up because this lady did remind me of my grandma. She did remind me of some older people I've met who've really kind of pushed me in the direction I'm going. And yeah, so it's more of a podcast than anything. I will have one or two little pictures just to illustrate what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's just really all it is, man. And because I've talked about this before, and I've had people tell me I need to talk about these people more. People like my uncle, my grandma, some of the old ladies kind of helped me get into the outdoors, some of the old guys. And yeah, so I told them I would, and this is the first time. So, and it took me forever to actually get this thing going good, because I have to fix the audio a lot. So anyway, yeah, so hope you guys enjoy it. It's again, I'm a little choked up because she did remind me of my grandma a lot. So yeah. Hey guys, so I guess this is story time, because I almost just cried a little bit, to be honest with you. Yeah, I just met a pretty cool old lady who really reminded me of my grandma in the fishing aisle at Walmart, man. And I talked to her for probably, what time is it, man? I went in there at 9, and it's 10:26 now, so probably about an hour. But this is just really cool, man. You get to meet some really cool people in this world, and it's just, I wanted to share some experience. So basically, a little backstory is my grandma was actually the one who got me started with a lot of the fishing, mainly fishing. We would go fishing and stuff, give me a cane pole or whatever. And yeah, she got me started with a lot of the fishing and stuff. So, you know, I've also been around a lot of older people fishing. You know. But anyway, I was in the fishing aisle just now in Walmart. I was just walking around, man. I was just walking around, and I was looking at the rods, and there was an old lady in a scooter. Right, she was in a little mobility scooter. Right, it was her and a couple other guys. And one of the guys, I think, was complaining about not being able to catch some fish. And she started to laugh a little bit. And she basically said, "I'll tell you how you catch some really good fish." Because she was talking about, "Oh yeah, I just went fishing. I caught a bucket full of brim and bluegill and stuff." And she was doing that thing old people do, and she was like pointing at all the soft plastics, all the jerk baits, and she was like, "I don't need any of this. I don't need any of this. I can catch more fish than so many people. I don't need any of this stuff. I'll tell you how to do it." And I was just like, "Oh, here we go. Old people doing old people." But what caught me was I was kind of ear hustling, I'm not gonna lie, but she was kind of loud. But she started talking about how she rigged her stuff for catching brim and bass and catfish. And she was talking about, "Oh yeah, so what I do," and it's weird, this is how she was talking, she's like, "It's weird, y'all know, y'all never heard about this. don't put your weight above your hook. Put your weight at the bottom, put your hook in the middle. And she starts trying to describe how she tied her hook and, how the bobber was above her hook and the weight at the bottom. And all the gals are looking at her really weird because, down here, the quintessential rig for bluegill, bass, catfish, crappie, whatever, is you have a bobber, and it's usually a big red cigar bobber, what I call them a cigar bobber. It's usually one of them, couple split shots, and usually like a number 6 Albertine hook on a quick snap swivel. That's just how it's done down here. If you go to anybody's house and look at their fishing rods, I can almost guarantee you down here that's how it's going to be hooked up. But she was describing something different, right? And I was listening to her, and I was like, this old lady got some tricks, because what she was basically describing is a high-low rig. And this is a rig that a lot of people actually use, but it's not something that's traditional. And these guys are looking at her weird, and they're like, yeah, okay, old lady. And she was just like, I'm telling y'all, just do it. And she was describing how she would watch the fish, and she was saying the fish never work the bottom like, the rig wants to work. She was like, the fish always are in the middle. The fish are in the middle. And that's how you want to really catch them. Them brim, they don't hit the bottom like catfish. They don't hit the top like bass. They're in the middle. And when you fish the middle, the margin, you can catch all these different fish. It can work so much easier. And I was like, this old lady really knows what she's talking about. She knows what she's talking about. And crying a little bit here because she reminds me of some of these old people I talked to, some of these people who really knew what they're talking about. There's old people I've met before, and they're like, they think they're experts, but they just do stuff that works. And then there's the ones who really study and really know what they're talking about. And this is with so many different facets. This is like with reloading, casting, hunting, trapping, fishing, all sorts of stuff. You got people who do stuff that works and they're successful, but then you have people who, they're up here, that they will sit and they watch and they learn and they try different things. And this is what this old lady was, man. And I have so much respect for those old folks who do that, man. I can't describe to you how much respect I have for people who just can sit there and watch a fish for half an hour to figure out how to catch it better. Talking to some of these old Cajuns I've talked to, they'll sit there and they said they'll sit by a bayou and watch these cypress knees, and they'll sit there and watch the different, otters and stuff, so they know how to catch them. It's so amazing. It's something I feel that's really been lost on, generations, coming up. But anyhow, she was describing this, and I was like, yeah, she knows what she's talking about. So she starts on her little mobility scooter, and she's like, oh, whatever. And she starts going towards me. And I look at her, and I just kind of say, you really know what you're talking about. She says, what? I'm like, I do what you're talking about. Because a high-low rig is actually one of my favorite rigs to use when I'm trying to figure out where the fish are in the water column. It's one of my favorite rigs to use, bait fishing, brim fishing. It's just a really good rig, man. And I was telling her, I'm like, you're talking about a high-low rig. She's like, I never heard it called that. I'm like, well, that's what it is. It's a high-low rig. They use it in, I was telling her, they use it in offshore fishing a lot. I'll start talking to her about, how like, a sabiki rig. And I was telling her how, I would do a high-low rig with 4 or 5 hooks on it. And her face absolutely just lit up. And everybody else in the house was looking at us like, man, these freaking weirdos. But she was like, yeah, I've tried it with 2 or 3 hooks. You be catching a lot of fish in it, don't you? I was like, yeah. It's like, yeah, you. I was like, sometimes I can catch 4 or 5 fish at it, and if I'm bait fishing. And it was. It's a really beautiful thing, man, to see somebody at her age, because she was probably in her 60s, probably. And she just lit up. Her whole face just lit up. Just joy, man. And it's such a beautiful thing to see that, man. And she, me and her got to talking. We got to talking. And we got to talk about hook selection, different types of lines. Like, she just got into the weeds of it. and she was just explaining so much. She was like, "Yeah, I only use these hooks because it catches so much better. This hook catches so much better. And if the catch, if she was describing like Aberdeen hooks, long shank hooks and everything. And she was saying she wanted to go find some, so I offered to help her go find some of these hooks, right? So we're going around the aisles, and probably for a good 30 minutes, we just sat there looking at hooks and talking about fishing and just so many little tips, man. Just it was awesome. And she wasn't one of these people who was just. I meet a lot of people, especially older, and they're just like, "Oh, what you got to do is A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and that's it." They're really dogmatic at it. But she was that different type that I've mentioned, and she's like, "Yeah, another thing you should try." And then I would say, "Oh yeah, I've tried that." And but I do it like this. And she's like, "I never thought about it like that. That's a good idea. That's a good idea. I'm going to try that before I get too old." And we were talking about worm beds. We were talking about. She was telling me how she dug her worm beds. She was telling me that she used to actually sell worms, that her worm beds were so good she would sell worms. And she was telling me about using rabbit pellets to make the worms hatch quicker, how different types of leaf material would make the worms grow quicker. I was telling her, yeah, I want to do some more worm beds. And she was, but I don't know what kind of dirt to use, what kind of potting soil to use. And she looked at me, she was like, "Why use potting soil? Just go in the woods and get some leaves, wet it down real good, and put some rabbit stuff on there, and they'll grow like crazy. You won't be able to use them." And it was so amazing, man, talking to her, and just her stories. She was just saying little stories, 2 3 minute stories, and one that really struck me again, man. She was talking about this pond she fished at, and this is again really awesome, man. This just shows the different type of learning it used to be. And she was describing that there was a bass in there nobody could catch. The bass was smart. It was slick, as she said. Yeah, that was a slick bass. The way she talked about it, he was slick. Well, she said one day, she said what she started doing because she wanted him. She wanted to catch that bass. And I think that's so cool when people get fixated. They get, you know, C.T. Fletcher calls it a magnificent obsession, and it's our drill sergeant played some of C.T. Fletcher's videos for us when we were going through basic, and he talked about having a magnificent obsession. And C.T. Fletcher is a world-class weightlifter, and he's had multiple heart problems. He was in the hospital for like 8 months, I think, because he lifted so much and he didn't care. He said he didn't care if he died. He would be happy if he died lifting that much because that was his thing. I really look up to guys like that. But this was like her. This fish was her obsession. But she said she would go out every day for like a month in her free time, and she'll sit there and she will watch this bass because it was a very particular one. The way she described it, it was in a particular place. And she was talking about how all these guys tried all these different things to catch it. But nobody just sat there and watched this fish. She did. And people thought she was crazy. And she just sat there and watched this fish. And she watched, how he chased the brim and stuff. What he ate. And she just focused on this fish. And she said one day, she caught him. And the way she described it, she was talking about she had a Zepco 808. Or 880, I forgot. 808, I think. And she said, yeah, she put her rod down, and she was like, I'm going to catch him. I'm going to catch him. She turned away for a second, because she was watching him. She turned away for a second. Next thing you know, that rod was going down, and she grabbed it, and the way she was talking, the way she was telling this story about how this bass was jumping out the water, and she was pulling it in, and God, it was like you were just right there with her, man. And it was really cool, man. And I'm not gonna lie, when I was listening to her talking, I was looking at her, I saw my grandma in her, man. I really saw my grandma and a lot of these other people who are like that. Sorry, ran out of space a little bit. But as I was saying, there's a I've met a lot of people in my life. I'm only 24, but I've met a lot of older people who left an impact on a certain way. They didn't just tell me do A B C D and you're good. I've met probably 4 times as many people who did that, but the people who really left an impact on me were the ones who kind of instilled in me kind of a drive to think differently. And my grandma, my uncle, some of the old ladies I sold possums to, and that's a different deal altogether. A lot of them were just like this lady, man, and a lot of them aren't here with us anymore. They're not. But as I was talking to her, I was actually fighting back tears a little bit, as wimpy as it sounds. I was fighting back tears a little bit because I just saw all of them in her, and yeah, it's a cool thing, man. It's really cool, but cool old lady, really cool old lady. So yeah, I helped her find some stuff she was looking for. She wanted a fish basket. I helped her find some hooks she was after. Gave her some advice where to buy some stuff instead of Walmart because they're expensive. Help her find some pliers because she wanted a pair of vice grips for holding her fish. She doesn't use the tongs, she uses vice grips. But yeah, so we talked for a good hour, exchanged a lot of stories, a lot of tips, a lot of elderly wisdom, a lot of wisdom that's just not really there anymore. We live in this society now where people just want to be told what to do. So she's not one of those. So just a quick look. Sorry, ran out of whatever. Ran out of space again. But yeah, like I was saying, man, just a quick little story of one of these many times. This has happened to me many times, but this is the first. I really feel like I want to share this, but yeah. Hope you guys enjoyed it, man. If you can and you hear somebody talking about something interesting, an older person talking about something interesting, man, don't be afraid to just kind of butt in and just introduce yourself, man. Because a lot of old people really, really like that. It really makes your day, and you can learn some stuff, man. So, Miss Mott, if you're watching this, I just want you to know you're a pretty cool old lady, and I hope you come visit me up where I work. I hope you come visit me. I like to try and talk to you some more. So, hope you guys enjoyed it. Hope you guys like my little bit of rambling here. So, yeah, take it easy.